Hey guys, Romie here, so please like, comment, subscribe. This is my review for The Real Housewives of Atlanta Season 10. Episode 10, Storming Out. Now, the episode, it starts off with Portia. She's with her sister. Remember, she has the Hosea Foundation because that was what her grandfather founded. And this episode is mainly about charity. So I said, okay, this is cool. So I can just watch this episode while eating something. Don't have to put too much effort and attention into paying attention. Or so I thought. So the first couple of minutes are just about Portia saying how she's going to go to Houston. And she invited a couple of the other ladies to Houston as well to help out with the foundation. Now, once Portia leaves, the prep area there in Atlanta, she gets a call from Shamia. Shamia just says that she's going to come and support her. I said, oh, that's nice. But Portia was, because she's not in a good place with Shamia, Portia kind of gave off the energy like, this is cool, but, like, what's your objective? What's really good? What's really going on? And I said, Portia, can't a friend just support? Can a friend just support? Anyway, we see Cynthia. She has a little, like, luncheon with Kandi, and Kenya was supposed to be there. Now, Kenya ended up not showing up, so we'll get that part out of the way first. Kenya said she wasn't showing up, and that she was still in New York doing some stuff. Cynthia felt a certain way because ever since Kenya got married, she's been doing marital duties, which means that she can't just hang out with girlfriends all the time. But Cynthia wanted to go over with Kandi. Yes, I'm going to Houston myself. I have my own charity thing. I may be going and do some stuff with Portia. Maybe not. Kandi said, let's be very clear. When Portia put it out there that she was doing the charity stuff, that's great. I'm doing my separate thing. But I have to stay here with Riley, and spend some time with her. I've already donated $20,000 to organizations there. And for supplies, that'll be on the way. I said, Kandi, I expected nothing less. But they kind of go over the whole soothsaying. I'm sorry, what was that thing called? The spirit conjure. No, I'm serious. What was it called? The medium. That's what it was. That woman had an attitude. She did. She did. She had an attitude. I was really trying to play it off, but no, she had an attitude. She was rude. And that's all that was. She was putting 20 on 100. And I'm thinking, did production or did Nene say something? Because that was too much all in itself. But they were just kind of go over how when Kenya went at, what was that, Kim?
I decided to donate my time.
Was it that? Or it doesn't even matter. What matters is Cynthia and Portia are going to Houston alone. They're going to Houston alone. They have all these friends they're supposed to be able to rely on, but they're going to Houston alone. And they're going to pretend like they don't feel a certain way about that, but they do. And next thing we know, we see Sheree. Sheree's on the phone with Tyrone. And at one point, they talk about... Sheree's so in love. She talks about... When Tyrone's talking about, the trunk, he's talking about the butt. I said, oh my God, Sheree, you're not a schoolgirl, but I'm happy to see you happy, so let's move on. Now, the main thing with Sheree talking to Tyrone is that Tyrone essentially said Nene needs to keep his name out of her mouth because now Sheree jumps in and says that Nene had a thing for Tyrone, was trying to hit up Tyrone when she wasn't married to Greg, or when they were separated. And I'm thinking, if Nene says she knows Tyrone and knows that he's a con artist, why would she be hitting him up, period? Unless maybe she didn't know that he was a con artist or a full-blown con artist at that time. But I'm thinking, Tyrone, you're in jail. The last thing I would be doing is making any type of threats, whether they were verbal or if they were just implied. That's not what we're doing. So in Houston, it's day one, and Mallory, Lauren, Cynthia, and Portia are there. And I said, okay, it's good that they're able to go and do this together. Now, Mallory, she lived in Houston for 26 years. So it's like her old neighborhood she's going to. And you just get reminded of the devastation that it's not over. It's not over. You know, it takes months for people, even if you have money, to get the approval to get, you know, your house completely gutted out. Because even sometimes neighborhoods, just because there's a certain level of mold infestation that others obviously can't go back into their homes if the home right next to you is inhabitable. Now, they start off day one with Portia. She has an event where they're essentially giving supplies. So that's the first event, and they're showing support, and Shamia shows up, and Portia was really happy about that. Portia was like, we have a lot to talk about, but at the end of the day, I'm happy my friend was there to help, and I said, that's nice. Now, Riley, she goes, and she's 15, so I guess they're in Atlanta. Once you're 15, you can go and drive. I said, that's great, but is Atlanta going to have a driving course to teach them how to drive in the snow? I'm sorry. I had to say it. Because if in New York, you have to learn how to drive pretty much in the city, or in the city type area, because them streets, Jesus. And in New Jersey, the first thing you have to do is pretty much highway driving of some sorts. I feel like Atlanta, you need to be prepped for snow. And I'm not saying that as a joke. I'm saying that serious, because I get it. If your car doesn't have all-wheel drive or the right tires, then it doesn't matter. But still, some people just don't know how to drive on any type of surface that isn't some, you know, that's not just a little slick or dry. Now, once they get back, and I say, so Riley's going to roll up in the G-Wagon? Practice in the G... Candy, you're such a good mom. You're so trusting. But Block calls, you know, that's Riley's dad. And Riley, she was doing her usual. He wants to go and spend some time with her. He has a son, a little boy being born soon. His name is King. And so his son, Riley, and himself all have birthdays around the same time. They're supposed to go and link up. But Riley, she was really quiet. So Candy was trying to figure out, Riley, what's going on? Now I was trying to figure out what's going on. So Riley, once she got inside the house, she started bursting crying. We didn't see that. We just heard the audio. And I said, uh-oh. Uh-oh, Candy, just take the stuff off. Just take the stuff off. Clearly, they didn't have cameras in the house. Because they didn't expect for all that to happen. The scene was just for her to go and talk outside. Them to go and drive around the block. Not for Riley be crying because of her father block. Now, back in Houston, we see, it's interesting. There was a little bit of a split up. In a good way. Not in a bad way. But Cynthia and her sister, Mal, they went to do their thing, while Portia, Shamia, and Lauren, they went to go on the radio show to promote that they're there. People come, enjoy yourself, support. And now it's time for Portia to support Cynthia's event. And Cynthia's event's more so about uplifting. And I said, that's nice. That's great. Portia and Shamia have a moment where they're just like, look, we're going to talk and have our moment. But Shamia coming in supporting me was really great. So Cynthia gets up there. She brings some Portia because it's like, thanks. Here's all my friends that you guys actually know that's here to support. Shout out to her. So Portia said she's donating some money. And the interesting part is Portia acknowledged that at one point her family was broke and borderline homeless. And really had to figure out how that they were going to afford to, you know, just get meals. And I said, huh, when did that happen? That's interesting. Okay. It's always nice. The thing that I like about when they do charitable stuff is you get to hear, that's normally when you get to hear more about their personal lives. And when you realize why you like them in the first place. Because sometimes they make it hard with these shows. They make it really hard with these shows. And so Cynthia actually talked to this man who his family, they just lost their uncle, or he just lost his uncle. And it's hard. But guess who shows up? Miss, oh, I'm out and about. I'm in New York with Boo. Kenya shows up, and the event, it seemed like it was pretty much over, but Kenya's like, you know I'm going to support you for something like this. And she also has a lot of family in Houston, so that's why Cynthia was a little confused as to why Kenya wasn't coming out in the first place. I guess that was probably the first time that being able to get flights in and all of that. Because it took around 2 weeks after the devastation hit where you could really come in and the water seep down. Because you need to wait. That's what people didn't realize. You need to wait so that the supplies can actually get to the people and they could have somewhere to put it. Come on. Now, Shamea and Portia have a coming to Jesus moment, and Shamea does what we were surprised. She's the one that had to apologize. Portia acknowledged that, yeah, she overreacted, but Shamea was like, I'm sorry if Lord, I hate that. I hate the way you're doing but it was an apology nonetheless. She's sorry that Portia felt a way about her, I guess, being dismissive about, I have an illness, I have to, and right now I can't go, or I won't be able to do that type of flight, and you just made a joke about it. So, and we expected Shamea to be the one to go and put out the olive branch. Portia accepted it because she knew that there wasn't any much more she could get, so she said, okay, great, cool. Now it's time for Kenya's event. I'm assuming production they probably had like an intern there in her room just making sure that the dogs were good, because it said you can't just leave those dogs there. And I thought it was nice that Portia told Shamea, why don't you go in my place and just help Kenya out at her event? And I thought that was really cool. So now we're outside the hotel. It's a weird moment because Kenya's taking Cynthia, her best friend, her gal pal Cynthia. Portia feels a certain way because Portia's trying to figure out, why is it that Cynthia's acting like she didn't know that my event's going on, and all of a sudden she's just going to focus on her real friend, or her best friend, event. And I said, now you kind of sound like Nene. You're kind of giving me the Nene vibes, but I get it. Cynthia said that she had, see, that's a funny mess because this comes up later. Cynthia did acknowledge that Portia's event was on Saturday and said that she was going to make sure she was going to roll through. Kenya comes in. No one knew about Kenya's event being an hour before Portia's, and it's Habitat for Humanity. So that's not a quick thing. That's an all-day thing. So much for Portia's event. Now, because they made it seem like, oh, you know, maybe, well, not Kenya, but Cynthia made it seem like, oh, maybe if we got some time, maybe we can go there to your event and help out and support. I said, okay, if you think so, if you say so, thank you. Now, Candy, being the great mom that she is, she goes to visit her baby daddy Block and tells Block, look, it's great, shout to you, shout to your newborn, but your daughter, Riley, after she got off the phone with you, she started crying. And she said she didn't like feeling, she felt off guard when she had to go and just talk to you in that moment, in that setting. And Block said, you know what? It probably has to do with the fact that she knows that we don't really get along. We get along just to get along, but we don't really get along. And so maybe it makes her feel awkward when it's just kind of throwing on her that we all have to have a conversation. And maybe she's trying to not say too much because she's worried about what one will think about the other. So Candy says, that's actually a good point. I don't want that's a good point. Why don't we do therapy? Block's down for it. He wants to figure this out. And that's all that matters. You know, when we're just going to scale on past the fact that, well, he acknowledges that, you know, shout out to me having great baby mamas. I said, thank God, because who knows what kids would have. But let's just be real. And I'm sure you would have been there if it was a situation where you had to take care of. But it's always good to have that other side to help out. Always. Which is exactly why Candy wants Riley to have a relationship with her father. Now, we're at Portia's event. And Portia, her event is going well until the food stops. Because it was supposed to be 4,000 people. It was way more than 4,000 people. I'm sorry, 400 people. It was way more than 400 people. So they ran out of food. They had to shut down the food line. And she felt so guilty. But it was just like, Portia, you're doing the right thing. Don't worry about it. You're getting your blessings. Now, this is the type of mess you want to see. I mean, this type of stuff that maybe you need to go and focus back on, because you just not look a mess, because you look good, but when you're around just on the show doing other stuff, you look like a fool. So shout out to you for this. Like I said, you will get your blessings because of this. The food, the local businesses that were helping out, they brought more food, so it was fine. She said that they ended up like feeding, was it there? Like over 2,000 people or something like that, or assisting 2,000 people, or 2,000 people visit. It was a large amount. Easily. Now, Kenya, she's there with the family member, with the person whose house they're going to go and help tear down the walls so that they can make sure that there's no mold infestation. And, you know, Kenya's definitely, she's one of those where once there's a mission, she's going. It's like a competition. She knows she has to get things done within a certain period of time, so she just wants to go and get this room covered. She wants to get everything down. Cynthia's just like, can we have a water break? Kenya's like, that's great, but can we take down this one side or get this room done before water? And I said, you need to stay hydrated so that you can keep going, Kenya. You need to hydrate the muscles. Come on now, Cynthia's doing the right thing. I understand. And Kenya was definitely in the mode. So, I'm not saying in the mood. She was in the mode. And because she was in the mode, she was short. When Shamia called her, she was like, okay, great, no, we know I'm trying to do this, don't have to come to this call. And I got it. I completely understood why she was just like, just go and figure this out. But the thing is, it's still rude and it is still dismissive. And I hope people don't understand that that's common sense. Regardless of your reasoning for something, you can still have a certain action that could be deemed one way or the other. And I think that's what Kenya was missing, because even when Shamia got there, she's like, okay, it was cool because she, Portia, I believe, like, gave a donation. She was saying Portia was the reason why I brought her here, to give credit where credit's due. And I said, okay, cool, Shamia, but, Kenya was definitely just in that state of mind of, that's great, I'm not here to talk about Portia, I'm not here about, yeah, we can do the money stuff after, that's great, but go and get this garbage bag, and I said, okay, cool, alright, because we're there to work. Now, the problem ensues when it's like, okay, alright, so this is where you need to go into, and again, I get it, they don't have time, and Kenya's like, this isn't a game, this isn't for optics, just hurry it up, because timing wise it's taking too long. Completely get it. It's still rude, and you're not going to tell me any different. Now, they're there to eat, you know, after a hard day of work, and they're just going over everything that occurred, and Lauren takes it upon herself to kind of say, now, Cynthia, I find it interesting that once your gal pal, you know, Kenya came, you pretty much ditched my sis, and it's not like, because you originally committed to her charity event and then you went to Kenya's, and we said, okay, cool, so we, you know, a little disappointed that you couldn't divvy up your time and just come to ours to show support. And it's like, well, what we were doing was, no, I'm not saying what you were doing wasn't important. I was just saying that, and then Portia chimed in that, yeah, I supported you, I expected the same support. Cynthia's saying, I did support you the first day. Portia's saying, I know you did, but the first day wasn't the only day. That wasn't the main day. That was just the starter of the weekend, because we weren't playing around. But they drop it because, again, it was all about charity, and they all understood that. The issue arrived right before Kenya did, and it was the fact that Shamia felt a certain way that Kenya was being very dismissive and short with her when she was just there to help, and she was just trying to figure it out, like, why. So once Kenya got there, you know, Kenya probably was like the last one to leave, and so she just needs to get herself together. And again, I understand it's a very emotional time, and you never know what's going on with their individual families, so that also plays into a part of why, oh, okay, maybe she's a little saucy right now because of one way or the other. Still dismissive. So when it finally gets to a point where Kenya's there, and we need to just let it be known that, look, Kenya, I felt a certain way at your event because I felt like you were being very short with me. When I first got there, you were just like, oh, okay, figure it out, fine. Then I got there, like, oh, okay, get to work. It was like, oh, okay, do this, oh, okay, do that. And Kenya was just like, look, it wasn't about that. I wasn't trying to be offensive. And no one thought you were trying. It's not about if you were trying. It's about if you were, if you weren't. You were. And I understand it's like, well, it's because I understand that. But I am tired of being understanding. How about that? People are tired of being understanding when all that could be done to remedy it is, I'm sorry, all this stuff got to me, as I'm sure it got to all of you, and so that's why I was acting like that. Boom! Done. Kenya was probably just emotionally drained and tired, so she didn't want to deal with it. And so then she got up because the conversation was getting to circles. I did like the fact that Cynthia was just like, no. We're going to continue this because we're not doing this today. You were talking about my girl before she got here, so whatever, the same energy you had before, have it now. I said, okay, Cynthia. She didn't say it like that, but that's what she was doing. Kenya was having a moment in the bathroom. Like I said, I'm sure she was physically tired, emotionally spent. And so she was talking to the producers saying, F them bees. I'm tired of them bees. All of them at the table trying to act like that. I'm tired of this ish. That's why Mark doesn't want to be on here because he has how they gang up on his wife and how they do all this and that. I said, Kenya, let's be very clear. Even though you've supported the other ladies when they were having their events, you sure did. You still brought some mess too. So let's not act like it. Let's not act like that you've always had your act right. And now because you're doing something, now we're just going to magically go and say that, look, let bygones be bygones. We're doing this for a larger cause. No. So Portia realized, okay, what's going on with Kenya? She goes there. Kenya didn't want to have anything to do, so she was flipping off the camera crew, and so like, I'm done with that. So then, Cynthia realized after Portia was like, Portia flipped off the cameras, and she's going. So then Cynthia's trying to figure out, wait, what's wrong? What's wrong? Kenya talked to her for 2.5 seconds. I'm going to the hotel room now. It was so great. Thank you for everything that you did. And I said, okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But that's also BS. You're on the show. You're getting paid. Like, are you kidding me? If I was on the show getting paid, trust. If I already put up with a lot of mess for free, imagine how much I would put up with for a check.